Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita Q&A session. We started chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita yesterday in the main class, and today we will do question answers based on that, or any other questions that you may have. So we will start with the Mangalacharan prayers. I'll share my screen and you can follow along in that. 1 second. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
You. Great. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so I will do a quick review of what we did yesterday. So yesterday we completed 9 verses from Bhagavad Gita, verses chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, I mean. And chapter 4 is a very, very important chapter. And it's about it. The title is Jnana Yoga, or transcendental knowledge. Now, I started with an explanation of what is Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is basically the yoga of Jnana. Now, what kind of Jnana? There are all kinds of knowledge. Jnana means knowledge, and it can be material knowledge of how to be successful in this material world, or it can be spiritual knowledge. And even in spiritual knowledge, there are various categories. One is, for example, the knowledge of the spirit soul, the difference between the spirit and matter, which is known as Sankhya Yoga. Or there is the yoga of the knowledge about Krishna, or about God. So Lord Krishna explains both in the 4th chapter, and the Sankhya Yoga has obviously been explained earlier itself, the knowledge of the soul, in the 2nd chapter in great detail. More detailed version of that will come in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and of course all throughout the Bhagavad Gita as well, but very in a very concentrated and a very focused manner in the 13th chapter. But in the beginning portion of the 4th chapter, Lord Krishna is focusing on getting knowledge about Krishna himself, about God himself. And that is the highest knowledge, and that is called as Jnana Mishra Bhakti. So maybe it's a good time for me to just share some of the Jamboard slides from yesterday itself, instead of making new slides for today, or new sort of whiteboard for today. So this is what we discussed yesterday. So chapter 2 contains Atma Jnana, but in verses 1 to 15 of chapter 4, Lord Krishna is talking about Jnana Mishra Bhakti, which is basically jnana mixed or bhakti mixed with jnana. So when you obtain knowledge about God or Krishna, it is also jnana, but it is in the mood of bhakti. It is dovetailed, jnana is dovetailed into bhakti. So that is what Lord Krishna goes into the details of till verse 15. From 16 to 42 is about the process of Jnana Yoga, how to obtain Jnana. And that we will cover in the subsequent classes. So in verses 1 to 3, Lord Krishna begins to describe the history or the origin of the Bhagavad Gita. He says that he gave this knowledge originally to Vivishwan, or the sun god. And from the sun god, Vivishwan, he gave it to his son Manu, who gave it to King Ikshvaku, and so on. This knowledge has been coming from Krishna in a chain of disciplic successions, and saintly kings understood it in that way. So the kings need to be able to understand, the leaders need to be able to understand this knowledge, Raja Rishi. So the saintly kings understand it and then educate the people in a spiritual way, not just educating people in a material sense or giving them material incentives, but spiritual incentives. Then we discussed the parampara system, where Lord Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam idam imam rajarshayo viduhu. So the system of parampara is explained by Lord Krishna, how everything starts from Krishna. Any parampara that is not starting from God is not a bona fide sampradaya or a parampara. So we went into that in detail. And so that is kind of the first two verses where Lord Krishna is saying that I started this, giving this knowledge to the sun god Vivishwan, and then it's received in parampara, and whenever the parampara is broken, he comes and reestablishes that himself. Then in the third verse, Lord Krishna goes into what is the criteria of receiving. So it's not just who gives the knowledge, but also one who receives the knowledge has to have certain qualifications. The giver of the knowledge is Krishna. The receiver also has to be a perfect disciple so that he can become qualified to further give it to his disciples. So the two main criteria are bhakta and a sakha. You have to be a bhakta and a sakha, a devotee and a friend. And we discussed, otherwise, for others who are not devotees or friends, who accept this knowledge in a friendly manner, this knowledge remains a secret, a mystery, uttam rahasya, because they cannot understand it in the proper way. And they will always be questioning it, will doubt it, and will just call it as just one more branch of knowledge, which is not the topmost, or which has flaws in it. It's not flawless, it is flawed according to their understanding. So that is the problem with not coming through a proper disciplic succession, where a guru has to properly vet, properly evaluate a disciple before appointing him as the next guru who can pass it forward. That has to meet a very, very high standard. So we went through all these topics. Then from fourth verse onwards, for our benefit, Arjun asks a question that how could you have given this knowledge to Vivishwan, or the sun god, because he is much, much older than you. Because everybody knows that Krishna was born to Devaki and Vasudevji, and they know about his presence or his appearance on this planet. So Arjuna obviously knows that who is Lord Krishna, and he is eternal, but he is asking on our behalf, so that Lord Krishna answers this question specifically and anybody or nobody is left with a doubt, because many people have this doubt: is Krishna God? There are so many people who think Krishna is just a saint or a Mahatma or a just a learned person, but not God. So Lord Krishna answers this question in the 5th verse, and he says by saying that, I am omniscient. I know all the births everybody has taken, but you don't. Then in that we discussed the difference between man and God, omniscience, and whereas we have very limited knowledge. And then in the 6th verse is a big clarification on the nature of his birth, that how we are, we may think that God also takes birth and dies just like us, but then 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we covered these 4 verses where Lord Krishna is describing the nature of his birth. And in 6th verse, Lord Krishna says that his birth is not the same as man's birth. And we went into some details, and I gave examples of from Srimad Bhagavatam how Krishna was born. And he was not born to Mother Devaki and Vasudev like normal children are born. He just appeared. The Lord appeared directly and then converted himself into a small baby. Lord Krishna is clarifying that he appears in his original transcendental form. Prakritim swam adhishthaya is the term that he uses, and he appears by his own internal potency or his own internal energy or agency, known as, and he calls that Atma Mayaya. So he appears like that. And the reason for his appearance is given in 4.7 and 4.8, primarily to establish dharma. That is what he says at the surface, that whenever dharma declines and adharma rises, he appears. So this is the yada yada hi dharmasya verse. But in the next verse, he gives real reason why he appears: for the liberation of the devotees, paritranaya, or the happiness of the devotees. Many devotees are already liberated. They don't need any more liberation, but for their happiness, for their joy. That is paritranaya sadhunam. So paritranaya has a deep meaning. It's not just deliverance or liberation. It's also for their extreme happiness or their relishment. So that is paritranaya sadhunam. And then to destroy the evil people or demons or the miscreants, as Srila Prabhupada says, which is vinashaya cha dushkritam. And then to establish dharma, dharma sansthapanarthaya. He appears again and again in every millennium. Out of these reasons, we discussed that to give happiness, to give joy and relishment to his devotees is the primary reason, because the other two can be established or can be done by even devotees or by agents of the Lord. The Lord personally doesn't need to come to kill the demons. He can just do that by his small blink of his eye, he can do. But the devotees relish only when the Lord personally comes. The devotees are waiting for associating with the Lord himself. Of course, the devotees like to associate with the agents of the Lord as well, but they also want to associate with the Lord as well, because the Lord is so dear to them. So all this, the Lord is describing about why he appears and how he appears. The nature of his appearance is transcendental, is spiritual. He appears in his spiritual body by his own energy. And why he appears, these are the reasons he explains. And then he goes on into the 9th verse, which says that one who knows, veti. Veti is a very important word. There is that emphasis of knowing throughout this chapter, you will see, and that's why this chapter is called Jnana Yoga. Knowing is very important. So just who knows all these topics, it results in liberation. So Lord Krishna says that one who knows the nature of my appearance, janma, and he says cha karma, karma cha. So he says Janma and karma. Janma cha karma, so to say. Karma means not just, it does not mean that the Lord performs fruitive activities, as in which results in karma phala. So that karma should not, the karma is a loaded word. Karma just means here activities. And that also Krishna will clarify in the next verse. Krishna is so intelligent. Obviously, he's the Lord. He clarifies in the next few verses that his karma is not like our karma. And he says, I am above all the laws of karma, as in karma phala. You get phala, then you have to enjoy the phala. He clarifies that in the next couple of verses. Specifically in verse number 13, he will say that, I am the creator of this system, yet I am the non-doer. So anyway, we'll come to 13 later, but he says, one who knows my appearance, janma, and karma, my activities, which are divya, may divyam, my divya activities and my divya janma, transcendental, who knows this in essence. So you have to know it in essence. You have to truly believe in it. It's not just knowing like a story, like, yeah, I know Harry Potter story, or I know some other story. Not like that. To really embrace that, to internalize that, to believe in it, have full faith that yes, this is the story of my dear Lord. When one does that, then tyaktva deham punar janma naiti. Upon leaving this body, tyaktva means to leave, deha, when you leave this body means after death, no punarjanma. Punarjanma na iti, no more punarjanma. What happens instead? Mam eti, one goes to Krishna, so which is the highest form of liberation. So Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, like that Lord Krishna is describing. So I think this was the last slide, pretty much. So repeated, yeah, how can we do, I described how can we do this Jnana Mishra Bhakti, how can we obtain knowledge about Krishna in essence, in detail. There's a lot of variety. It's not just, hearing about the Krishna's appearance, 20 verses, you keep just hearing that throughout your life and nothing more. Lord Krishna has given us so much variety. He appears in so many forms. We covered the story of Lord Krishna's appearance during Janmashtami time this year. All those recordings are available. You can go watch them, or you can read Srimad Bhagavatam and or Krishna book for Lord Krishna. We also covered the appearance of Sri Vaman Dev, which is also none other than Krishna. And so many appearances are there. Sometime we will cover the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev, Lord Ram, and so many. Lord Nrsimhadev appeared from the pillar. So all those are Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. There's no difference between the appearance and activities of Lord Nrsimhadev and Krishna. They're all the same. I mean, variety is there, but the divinity, the transcendence is the same. There is no difference in the transcendence. And then to know in essence, this is a big beautiful connection from 9th verse to 10th verse. How to know in essence, that we will cover next time, and that has to be in a pure state of consciousness with a pure heart. And Lord Krishna starts by saying Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. So like that, by giving up all attachments and bhaya and krodha, by taking shelter, manmaya mamupashrita, like that one has to know about Krishna in essence. Like that you can know Krishna in essence, not for our enjoyment, to get like a good story, or for anything else, to whatever ulterior motives there may be. So without any of those feelings or consciousness, one has to know Krishna. So we will cover that in the next class, how to know Krishna in essence and so on. So, and there is so much more material to know about Krishna. So yeah, then there were question answers. You can listen to those in the recordings. So this is how much we covered yesterday. Okay, so I'll stop here. It's 10:20. So about 20 minutes we spent, or 15-20 minutes we spent on a quick summary of what we covered yesterday. So any discussion, any questions? Yeah. So one devotee is asking a question, Manjunath Prabhu. Why don't we remember our previous births? Very nice. So I had kind of given a sort of a hint yesterday that anybody who is interested in this discussion as to why we don't remember our previous births, we can discuss that, because, and this question is kind of stemming from the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 4.5. So we go to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse number 5. And here, Lord Krishna is saying that, one second, let me pull it up on my computer or on my, with my notes. Yeah. So Lord Krishna is saying, the personality of God had said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Bahuni me vyatitani. Bahuni means many. I have, vyatitani means I have passed or I have lived through. Many births I have taken. Janmani tava cha Arjuna. That the births have been taken by me, and cha by you, tava, my dear Arjuna. Tanya aham veda sarvani. Veda means again knowing. So again, Veda or Veti, that with versus with word means to know. So I know all of them. Tani aham, of them. I remember sarvani. I remember all my appearances, because Lord is omniscient. Not only he remembers his appearances, he remembers the appearances of all living entities. Na tvam veta parantapa. My dear, parantapa means Arjuna. Na tvam, you don't. Veta, you don't know, or you don't remember any of them. So like that. So the question is, why don't we? Na tvam veta parantapa. This applies to us also. Why don't we remember? So that is the question that that Lord Krishna is answering. So the answer is that this is Lord's arrangement. Now we do remember all our past births, but it is buried in deeply in our subconscious memory. We cannot recall that. The ability to access that has not been provided. Now there are many techniques and which are not recommended to do past life regression and things like that. And I'm not even quite sure how to discern whether what you may realize by your regressions is true or some imagination. You never know. So the instructions for devotees is to not worry about what our previous birth was, but to focus on this human life that we have received, which is so rare, where we should perform devotional service, spiritual progress, so that we can make progress towards going back to Krishna, going back to the spiritual world. Now, why don't we remember our previous births? So why has that access not been given to us? So, first of all, past lives are most likely animal lives. Even if they are human lives, we know that past lives did not lead to liberation, because right now we have a body, so we are not liberated yet. Time is flowing in the material world. Time is constantly flowing. So there are past lives and there will be future lives. And in that progression of time, we did not get liberated in the past. If we were liberated, we wouldn't be here, isn't it? So liberation did not occur, which means in the past lives, we encountered death, right? And death is never a pleasant experience. Even any shocking events in our life are very unpleasant. Now, let me ask you all a question. Some of you should unmute and tell me, especially those that are a little bit older, who are at least, I would say, 35, 40 years old, at least. Do you all remember where you were 1 year back, exactly today, 20th November 2020 at 10 a.m., what were you doing? How many of you remember? I'm just picking some random date and time. So, 1 year ago or 2 years ago, 2019, before COVID, where were you exactly? What were you doing? Do you remember? Anybody remembers?
I don't remember, Prabhuji.
Okay. Anybody remembers?
No. Only thing is we were at home actually.
Huh?
Only thing we were at inside the home because of COVID.
2019? What about 2019?
That we don't remember.
Don't know. And maybe who knows, you were in the home or not, because COVID doesn't mean you are at home. Maybe you're going and buying some grocery or buying, some vegetables, whatever. You're not sure you're exactly inside the home, maybe. Now let me ask you another question. Do you all remember, again, the older people, at least 35, 40 years old, do you remember exactly where you were, what you were doing when you got the news of September 11 attack on US? Whenever you got the news that the Twin Towers have fallen and there's a massive terrorist attack on US, when you got that news, do you remember where you were, what you were doing? Anybody?
I can say I was at the office.
You remember how you got the news? Somebody came and told you, hey, this happened, or there were no smartphones then, so there was no pop-up on your phone, news alerts or anything. But how did you know?
Yes, from radio and TV.
And where exactly you were? Like, do you remember a little bit where you were sitting when you first got the news? Do you have some vivid recollection of that scene?
Yes, I can remember that.
Anybody else?
Yes, I can remember it. So,
what was it?
I was reading a book, and like after some time, like I was watching TV, and the TV news, I saw the 7/11 attack.
9/11.
9/11 attack. Yes.
Which book were you reading? Do you remember?
It was. I was doing some math.
Okay, so you have such very specific
Yes.
memory about that.
Yes.
Very nice. Anybody else?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I was in India that time. And then I also saw in news, and I was about to travel to US on the 17th. So it was the first flight into US after 9/11. So
No.
I was like very curious on
No, but when exactly you heard the news, do you know that time and place, that
I
kind
was
of
at
scenario,
home.
which book you were reading, or you were eating?
No.
Do you know that?
Not really. I was just doing normal chores just to get ready for the flight and all those things. That only I remember, but not in particular.
So I remember, for example, I was attending a sort of a, meet. I was also in India at that time. I was meeting a group of friends. And one of the friends came late to this happened in the morning, if you remember, at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning in the US. So on India, it was evening time or night time. And we were having dinner or some, and one of the friend came late, and he came and said, what happened? And like that. So I remember who I was with. I remember exactly the place where I was, the sort of the hall I was in, and all that. So my point is that traumatic memories are very strongly imprinted in our memory. But normal things and even the happier moments, whenever we are satisfied, contented, happy in life, we don't remember. Like 2 years ago, you were probably happy. You were not, nobody came and, into your house like 9/11 and, crashed into your house or anything like that happened. You were probably like normally living your happy life. You don't remember that. Of course, you may remember something very happy moments in your life, like when you were married or when you had your child, those kind of things you remember. But the traumatic memories are very, very strongly imprinted in our minds. That's the main point I'm trying to make. But all the other normal things we don't remember. And especially in animal life and all these, other, situations, we have had a lot of traumatic memories. And remembering all those things is a very big burden that we have to carry. Very, very big burden that we have to carry. Therefore, the Lord has made the arrangement in this human life. It's a big, if you think about it, it's a very big benefit that we don't remember all those traumas. Yes, we may not remember along with it some of the happy moments as well, but the traumas outnumber the happier moments. And whenever we are thinking in our mind, we always remember, due to our conditioning, all the traumatic moments more than the happy moments. We always try to focus more on, why did this bad thing happen to me? Think about it. What do you think most in the shower when you are showering, when you are just alone? Or when you are completely by yourself? Due to our conditioning, we think, why did he do like this to me? Why did he do like that to me? We don't count our blessings that much as we count our miseries. And that's just this life so far. Now, if you have to remember all the past lives, that's a very, very, very big burden to carry. And doing spiritual progress in this life would become very hard. That's like saying, asking a very, very person in a lot of pain to do devotional service, to do spiritual progress. It's not going to be possible. A person who is very, very hungry, first thing you have to do is to give him some food. You cannot ask him to read Bhagavad Gita. He will start eating the Bhagavad Gita itself because he is so hungry. Yeah. So many people have this or have this experience. For people who have come from war veterans, or who have seen active conflicts, after coming back, they have this thing called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. They cannot function normally in their life because they have seen so much death, so much killing. They just cannot function properly. They cannot even be with their family properly. You have gone through that PTSD in your previous lives. Yeah. So do you think you will be able to function properly in this life with all that memory, all that baggage? No, it's not going to be possible. So it's a good thing that we forget those things and we get as much of a clean slate as possible to make spiritual progress, because the purpose of human life is not to remember all those things. We may think that if I remembered I was a cat or dog in previous life, I would do spiritual progress in this life. That's just such a stupid argument. So many people have had miseries in life. They do some devotional service. And this is exactly why chapter 3 is important. Demigod worship. They worship somebody above themselves, somebody superior, demigods. They get benefit, some material benefit quickly. Lord Krishna will exactly say that in the next coming verses. Lord Krishna has so beautifully incorporated this. Verse number 12, I think, 4.12, if I'm not wrong, or 14. Yeah, 12. So 12, Lord Krishna says, men in this world desire success in fruitive activities and therefore they worship the demigods. Let me show you. Am I still sharing the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so 5th. So I'll just go to 12th. So men in this world desire success in fruitive activities and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly they get results from the fruitive work through the worship of demigods. Yajanta iha devataha. Kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. Kshipram means quickly. In 9th chapter, Lord Krishna will say the opposite. Those who worship me, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma. By devotional service, you quickly become a devotee. Here he's saying quickly you get material benefits by worshipping the Devata. Kshipram word is used. So many people do that. It is in some sense spiritual, or it is in some sense above themselves. But after getting material benefits, they forget. So what is the point? They did the whole worship of demigods, etc., is for gradual progress of human beings. But many people, even when they get those benefits, they don't take the next step. They forget and they start enjoying. So in the same way, knowing I got benefits, or knowing that I was a cat or dog, and expecting that, I could have used that for my spiritual progress is not a very valid argument. We don't see any evidence of that in our current life either. That is simply the desire to know who I was in previous life is simply a sort of a sense gratification. I want to know. Everybody is curious to know who I was. It's just curiosity, like what is happening in the other house. What is happening there? What is happening in his life? What is happening in his life? What happened in my life previously? So much. It's not that, oh, if I know that, I will make spiritual progress. That is just a bogus argument. Think about it. Think a little bit deeply. Okay. So whoever is hearing this right now, or whoever will hear this in the future on YouTube or wherever, please think about it and try to realize how useless it is. So there is no benefit is what I am asserting, but the downsides are many. There is too much baggage to carry in your heart. And even if the past life was very pleasant, let's say you were the king of the world in the past life. Now you are not. You will be lamenting that, oh, I was a king, now all that is lost. Or I was so happy in my past life, why I can't be so happy now? So either way, it is a baggage to carry. So the best thing is to not carry the baggage and do spiritual progress, devotional service in this life, according to the instructions of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So I hope I answered that question in fairly great detail. This is pretty much what I have to answer. I have like 2 pages of notes on this topic, which I did not cover yesterday because it takes time. As you can see, it took almost 20 minutes. But this is all I have written down in my notes. And yeah, we don't want to be tied to the past. We have to look into the future. You cannot drive a car by looking at the rear view mirror. You will, crash. The best thing is to look through the windshield, through the forward windshield, not in the rear view mirror. Whether the scene in the rear view mirror is very bad or good, doesn't matter. Any counter questions on this topic? Anything else?
I like to mention something.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Prabhuji. So we can, whatever we see, whatever has happened, it's getting to our mind or brain, but we don't have the capacity to retrieve that. That is what we can't remember what happened when I was a child or when I was a teenager. I don't have the capacity to retrieve. There are sometimes even what happened last week, sometimes I forget, I don't know. But after some time it comes out. So I have a small capacity. It's all limited. As a human being, it's limited. We can't have everything, whatever do, whatever learn, it's getting to our brain. It's stored somewhere as a memory chip. But I don't have, or we don't have the capacity to retrieve. That is what we can't remember what happened. Certain things we can retrieve, certain things we can't retrieve. That might be due to the focus or some other reason. I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, that's true. Is that just a comment, or I didn't hear a question, or just you were
That-
making a comment?
Yeah, that's a comment. So, but
Yeah.
some people ask what we were there, what mistake we made in the previous life, so that I won't repeat that, or why I'm getting punished. What did I do wrong? So that's what they wanted to find out. If something coming,
I'm just claiming that that's just a curiosity. Even if they find out, just that knowledge is not enough to reform them. Okay? Just knowing what I did, because there are enough instances within this life where we do have the memory, where we do have the capacity to correlate that this is happening to me because I did so and so thing. That is enough for us to put us on the path of reformation. But knowing all the other things why I'm suffering is not necessary. It's too much of a baggage, and not having access to our past life memory is Krishna's way of making sure that we are not carrying that baggage along with us. Lord Krishna has given us enough resources, enough information to know that we are suffering due to our past activities. But knowing all the gory details of those past activities is going to only add to our baggage, to the extent that we won't be able to carry it. That is the point. Just knowing why I'm suffering, somebody is suffering a lot, and he has this curiosity to know. Okay, you know that now you let's say no. What difference does it make that you did this? In fact, Dhritarashtra asks that question to Lord Krishna. What did I do in my past life or in this life to suffer so much that all my 100 sons were dead after the battle? I said I had 100 sons. At least one could have survived. One. Not even one survived. The answer that Lord Krishna gives is very startling. Okay? And you have to understand this answer in context. So first of all, Lord Krishna is Bhagavan, and Dhritarashtra had the advantage, had the fortune of talking to Bhagavan. So Lord Krishna answers that question. He counts all the mistakes that Dhritarashtra had done in his past lives, including many lives ago, Dhritarashtra had burnt down a tree which had so many nests with so many birds. He knew that, and he still burnt it down. All those birds died, and their little children who were in the nests, who could not fly, they died. But Lord Krishna says, do you think that knowledge is, had you known that, what difference that makes? You committed so many sinful activities in this life, and knowing well you committed it. You knew about these sinful activities. I sent my messenger, Akrura, to warn you. You still did not listen. Okay? When one commits sinful activities, then they don't ask this question. Oh, what will be the consequence? Then you are happily enjoying the sense gratification. When you are struck with the consequences, then you wonder, oh, had I known my past life, then I would not have committed. You are seeing around you other people. There are positive examples, or what I call as positive mentors and negative mentors. And I argue that negative mentors teach you much better, much more than positive mentors. Positive mentors will just tell you, do this, do that, do that, do that. Negative mentors means you look at people and you learn from their mistakes. You don't make them your mentor, like officially, please become my mentor. You don't want to go to a bad person and say, become my mentor. But negative mentor is a corporate term, which I have learned in my corporate life. It means looking at other people and learning how not to be, which means learning from either their bad behavior or mistakes. There's so much to learn in this life. This is just a bogus argument. Had I known my past life and my past mistakes for which I am suffering now, I would not have committed those activities. No, that's not the reason. You know fully well that by committing sinful acts, you will suffer. Therefore, the point is, don't commit sinful acts in this life. There's too much evidence in your own life and in life around you. Take the learning from that. Otherwise, it is just a question of sense gratification. Okay, that is the answer. So one should try to understand this and try to realize that this whole quest, if one has, oh, I want to do past life regression, or I want to find out who I was in my past life, what mistakes I committed, blah, 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 is a waste of time. And it will not lead to spiritual progress. So you can do many things. People waste time in many things. They waste time in watching useless TV shows and, so many things. So this is another area of waste of time. Okay, anything else?
No, this is very interesting, because in Christianity they say that we all sinned, we are sinners, right? So we are looking at that. We all are made a mistake. That's what we are born. It's very similar concept, no? Am I right?
Yes. And I don't want to speak much on Christianity, but because I'm not knowledgeable. But my understanding is in Christianity, there is no concept of a past life. The original sin that is talked about is to disobey God, that Adam and Eve committed by eating the fruit and not listening to God's word that you should not eat the fruit of material knowledge. But anyway, I'm not an expert in all that. I did a course on the Bible long back. But
no, that's what bringing. They are having a original sin and acquired sin.
Yeah.
So that is what they are bringing.
Yeah. But there is no concept of past life, that I was a cat or dog in past life or a human being in past life, and this is now my next life. I don't know if that concept exists. The concept of reincarnating from body to body does not exist. That is my understanding in their philosophy. So when you say past sin, I don't know past means how long back it goes. It just spans this life or multiple lives. I cannot say. Okay, we can ask somebody who has read detailed study of Bible. Okay. Okay, if no other questions, then we can end here.
I'd like to ask another question.
Yeah.
We studied that in last chapters, chapter 2 regarding the chapter 3, Karma Yoga. That is, we studied Karma Kanda. So I wanted to find out, is there is a Karma Kanda means the cycle of Dharma, Karta, Kama. So in that cycle, Karma Kanda.
Yes.
So is there something called Jnana Kanda?
No, I have not heard that term Jnana Kanda. Okay, Karma Kanda, basically Jnana, or the spiritual Gyan, not Gyan about, like I said yesterday, mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, not that Gyan or material knowledge, but spiritual knowledge leads to liberation. Karma Kanda does not. So that's why it's called Kanda. Kanda means when you are in a cycle. So you do something, you get the consequence. That is Kanda. So there is Jnana Kanda, I don't know, but I have not heard that term. But the point of Karma Kanda is that you are stuck in that cycle. But by acquiring spiritual knowledge, you make forward spiritual progress by which you can get liberated. And specifically, we will cover this in the next few chapters. You get what is known as Brahman realization, Brahma Nirvanam. In the 4th chapter, there will be a term, Brahma Nirvanam Adhigacchati. This is there in the 4th chapter in the upcoming verses. So you get Brahma Nirvanam. But by Krishna's knowledge, which is bhakti, Lord Krishna says, Mameti. So Arjuna, you come to me, which is a higher level of liberation. Even in liberation, there are various levels: Brahman realization, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Mameti means you come to me is Bhagavan realization. So by bhakti, you get Bhagavan. We will cover this in the future classes.
Prabhuji,
Anything else?
so there was one other question that we did not cover in yesterday's class. What is dharma?
What is dharma? Yeah, that requires little detailed explanation.
Okay.
So we'll cover it. Please, if you are interested, please remember to bring it up again.
Okay, sure.
I go into a very lot of details. Again, I have about 1.5 to 2 pages of discussion on dharma. Material dharma and spiritual dharma, social dharma, all what is the meaning of dharma.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you then. Thank you very much for attending and for your interest in this supreme science of Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.